Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /IDontWorkHereLady, where smug Karens believe everyone on Earth is meant to serve them. And in today's episode, we've got horrible bosses, Karens slapping people, tantrums being thrown, and one OP tells a story about the time a Karen learns a painful lesson after harassing him. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So it finally happened to me. I've spent years listening to your posts, and mine won't be quite as hilarious as some of these, but I figured I may as well submit. So here's some background info. I'm a male waiter. After a long and busy double shift tonight, I decided to go to my favorite place for a milkshake. So I'm down by the milkshake cooler, and that's when I noticed a lady standing beside me, saying lemonade every few seconds. Now, I don't think anything of it, since I think she's trying to figure out where the lemonade dispenser is. Eventually, I decide on delicious cake batter because why not? As I turn around, I'm met face to face with this clearly irate woman, who then barks at me and says, lemonade. Of course, I'm stupid and tired, and I just say, lemonade, right back to her. We continue this verbal dance, and each time she gets increasingly more angry, and I don't understand why. I've begun to fear for my physical safety because at this point, I think the lady's on drugs or something. She then throws her hands up and she points to the soda coolers, and she exclaims lemonade once again. Finally, it hits me. I had worn my apron into this place out of pure tiredness, so I tell her just that I don't work there, and her demeanor changes instantly. The woman looks me up and down, and she apologizes. I tell her the lemonade is on the fountain, like right next to her. But the woman wants bottled, and I don't know where bottled lemonade is because I don't drink it. After I go and pick up my food, she pulls me to the side, and she tells me she hopes she didn't offend me earlier. And this was when I saw the opportunity. I told her I wouldn't say I'm offended per se, but if I had worked here and you yelled at me like that, I would have ignored you. A please goes a long way, as does a full sentence. The woman looked shocked, and then she walked off. That's my story. What a rude encounter that was, and I'm glad OP spoke up and let her have it, guys. And don't you just love how her whole demeanor changed and she suddenly saw OP as human when they told her they're a customer? Like, it really is sad that some people don't even think of saying please or thank you, or even like OP said, using full sentences to retail employees. You can really tell what type of person someone is just by how they treat employees, and that woman clearly is a nasty, entitled person. Okay, so this just happened today, like a few hours ago, and I couldn't wait to get home and post it while it's still fresh in my mind. It's a short story, but it's crazy. I rarely get to deal with crazy people, so this was an interesting experience. I also want to note that I did censor a lot of the swears, so this conversation was a lot more vulgar than what's written. The husband and wife had a mouth that would make a sailor blush. So here's the backstory. I work at an automotive company as a parts specialist. The company has a very strict cell phone policy. Unless it's work-related, you aren't allowed to have your phone out. This is mostly because some of the parts we make go on military vehicles, and everything surrounding those parts is super hush-hush. Anyways, I keep my phone on me at all times because I use it as a pager between me, my boss, and my coworkers. We all text each other when we need to notify each other of things that are going on. That said, getting a call while I'm at work is very rare, and when I do get a call, unless I recognize the number, I let it go to voicemail and then call back when I'm on my break or something. Today, I'm halfway through my shift, inspecting some parts for an upcoming customer, when my phone goes off. I don't recognize the number, so I assume it's a spam call, and if it's important, they'll leave a voicemail or message. So I let it ring, and then it goes silent, and then ping, voicemail. I think to myself, I'll listen to that later. Not even a few seconds later, the phone rings again. It's the same number, and I think to myself, okay, maybe they accidentally redialed me. So I let it ring, and again, they leave a voicemail, and I'm thinking, that's odd. The phone then rings a third time. This time, I put the scanner down, leave the building, and answer the phone as it rings a fourth time. I'm kind of annoyed, but trying to keep calm and professional. I answer and say, "Hello, this is," and that's when I'm interrupted by a woman, and she screams, "Where the F are you? I've been waiting here for 20 effing minutes. Where are you?" Me, kind of stunned and confused after getting my ear blasted by this random woman, say, I'm sorry, who's this?" She then says, "Don't you dare play stupid with me. This is Karen. John gave me this number and said you would be here to help me load my car. So where the F are you?" At this point I respond, "Ma'am, please stop screaming at me. I have no clue what you're talking about." She tells me, "John from company so-and-so said you were going to help me load my furniture when I got to the store. I've been effing waiting here in this effing parking lot for effing 30 minutes now, and the store's closed, and not one single piece of crap employee is here to help me." I tell her, "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am, but I don't work there, and I don't even know what the store is." She then says to me, "Are you effing stupid? John, your boss, gave me this number to call when I pull up. Of course you work here, you jackass." I just tell her, "Maybe he gave you the wrong number, or you wrote it down wrong. I'm sorry, I can't help you." At this point, there's some muffled shouting and grumbling. And then her husband takes over the phone. And he's no better. He screams at me and says, "Why the F are you being so rude to my wife? We just want someone to load the furniture into our truck. It's not that hard." I tell him, "Sir, I was never rude to your wife. She's the one who started shouting at me and called my phone repeatedly. Again, I don't work here, so..." He then stops me right there and says, "Well, why would John give us your number if you don't work here, you idiot? Are you effing stupid?" I respond, "Sir, I do not know anyone named John. I don't work at a furniture store. I don't know what you're hoping to accomplish here besides wasting my time. You called me during work." He then says, "I'm wasting your time? I'm gonna call John and get your lazy ass fired. This is horrible service. I expected better of this place." At this point I tell him, "Sir, I gotta go, so call your friend John and ask him for the number again because you got the wrong one." The guy hangs up, and I head back to my office when the phone rings again. And you guessed it, it's the couple. I pick up and say, "Please don't call this number again. I will block this number, and if you continue to call, I'll involve police." It's Karen, and she screams, "What the F is wrong with you? Are you really that lazy, you stupid?" And before she got to say another word, I hung up and blocked the number. Finally, silence. I was curious, so I looked that company up when I got back inside, and it looks like a mom and pop furniture store that's several states away from where I live. I have no clue what happened after that. Crazy people do crazy things, I guess. I feel bad for this John guy who's probably gonna get his head bitten off by these people. And I'm almost wondering if he gave them the wrong number so they could annoy someone else. Yeah, OP wasn't lying when he said that couple had quite the mouth on them, and honestly, he should have just hung up and blocked that number right away, especially after getting abused like that over the phone. Like, why tolerate behavior like that when it comes from somebody you couldn't give less of a care about? That said though, I can't even begin to imagine the crap storm that John will endure the next morning when they pay him a visit, because that couple seemed really nice, right? I'd like to think they're gonna show up and give John lots and lots of hugs. So for some background, I'm in my 40s, and I'm former military. I now work with adults with mental or physical disabilities. One of the common parts of my job is escorting clients to the gym who want to work out and keep their weight down, as that's a big problem for far too many. In some cases, I just need to be there, while in other cases, I need to be within arm's reach of the client, just in case. The company I work with has a contract for gym use with a local hospital, so almost anyone can get a membership at their gym and get help with their weight or whatever, like a lot of big gyms. From this point on, the story unfolds quickly. So on the day in question, I was there with two clients, one who's independent and the other whom I have to stay within 5 to 10 feet of. We're lifting free weights, and I was changing the weights over for his lighter load as Karen approaches. Now, I'm in black shorts, which is standard for gym staff, but I'm wearing an old gray army t-shirt with the words Army across the front in big black letters. The staff wear gray t-shirts, but theirs has the hospital's bright, colorful logo over the heart. Nothing else. As I've said, this unfolded quickly. So Karen comes storming up to me and she says, "Excuse me, I have an appointment and you need to find my trainer." I let her know, "Sorry miss, I don't work here." She then says, "Don't give me that crap. You are clearly helping him." I respond, "Yes miss, I'm his personal staff from another company. We're merely utilizing a membership here just like you." She then says, "Don't you give me that." And at this point, I want to note that my client started making a noise he makes when he's getting frustrated or scared, and her raising voice could easily do that to him. So I turned my head to look and talk to him when Karen shouts, "Don't you dare ignore me," followed by pow. The woman actually slapped me in the face, catching me in the nose as I had turned to look at my client. And she did it hard enough to snap my face around and made me almost look in the opposite direction. And here's an important note. I had been holding a 45-pound weight in front of me with both of my hands, and the shock of the slap made my grip slip. And there was no bouncy boing of a weight dropped on the rubber floor mats either. It was a sickening crunch. I then looked at Karen, and she had a look of not being able to breathe on her face. The weight had landed across the base of her toes on top of her bright, sparkly gym shoes. And my guy starts screaming his head off. I move him aside, leaving her there, and call for a nurse. Luckily, there was a good half-dozen medical staff, including 2 doctors in the gym at the same time, so I just walked my guy away to minimize his stimulus and let them handle it. Keeping it short, several bones in her foot were broken, and the woman wanted me fired. And then, when learning I didn't in fact work there, she wanted to sue me and the hospital and the gym. I did file charges for the assault, and she not only lost her grounds for her lawsuit, but she lost her membership because she assaulted another client. To top it all off, she got handed a hefty hospital bill for her foot. I'm just glad to be in the clear and that there were so many witnesses. Oh my goodness, talk about instant karma. And if anyone deserved that happening, it's Karen. Like, I just don't get how some people can be that level of rude, to the point where they just smack random strangers like it's their hobby or something. Again, well deserved, and I hope Karen learned a lesson and she thinks about why that happened every single time she looked at her cast. So I worked for Target for far too long, and by the time I quit, I had put up with an enormous amount of BS from customers and the upper staff. My work schedule was chaotic, and after repeated complaints to HR and the store manager, I started getting nights. Unfortunately, when you're closing and working the back room, no one tells you any updates happening in the store. I don't like dealing with customers too often, so I chose to work in the stockroom or receiving to lessen that chance. So when suddenly I was scheduled to work the sales floor and work the customer service desk, I was confused and really annoyed. I spoke to my department manager and the store manager, only to find out that my job was dissolved and no longer a role. So with that, I quit. I gave my 2 weeks notice and HR walked me through it, and they said they'll call to cash me out and I'll be done. As I've said before, the scheduling was awful. So I received a call from HR and I went to pick up my final check on Friday. Well, the store schedule had me down to work Friday and Saturday after the cash out call. So when I go pick up my check, the store manager yells at me for not being in uniform for my shift. I told him I'm only there for my check, but he disregards that and he claims that I was paid for that Friday and Saturday, so I'm obligated to work it. I did put up a fight, but with all of his screaming at me and me being a fool, I just apologized and then put a vest on and then work that Friday shift. At the end of the night, the store manager writes me up and wants me in tomorrow on time. So now it's Saturday and I show up in uniform and Helen, the HR lady, looks confused and she asked me why I'm there. I tell her what happened the night before and that's when she told me, "No, we wrote you the check. You just had to come pick it up. Store manager can't write up someone who isn't working here anymore." So she takes me to the customer service desk to give me cash for that last shift, and the store manager's there. He then begins by listing off all the things he wants me to do, and I reply, "No, I don't work here. I wasn't supposed to work last night either." This is then confirmed by Helen. So his response is, well, he's already here and in uniform, and the online orders are really backed up, so do me a favor. I then said, "Sure thing," then took my cash and walked out. Freaking incompetent store managers always make me so mad, guys. And the fact that the store manager lied to OP and said they were paid in advance and to work to get their check has gotta be against the law, right? Like, did he really try to make OP work 2 days for free? Like, good thing HR was there to clear things up, or else OP would have worked a second shift for that idiot. And that's the thing that makes me so mad. How some people in power take advantage of people like OP who aren't aware of the situation they're in. So this happened years ago. I worked in a fancy deli, and my uniform consists of a bright pink apron. The apron is neon, like burn your eyes out pink. It had a long pink ribbon that crisscrosses your back and then finishes in a fancy bow. It's very ugly. I work in a kind of mall. It's quite small, with a handful of shops. Clothing, butchers, a supermarket, and a few cafes. The bloody pink monstrosity is a pain in the ass and a half to put on and remove, so we tend to keep wearing it whenever we step out of the shop, for lunch, shopping, blah blah blah. On this day, I need some prescriptions filled, and as it was super quiet, my boss was happy to let me go to the pharmacy a couple of shops down, while still wearing my neon apron. The pharmacy folk wear green shirts and black pants, and a lanyard around their necks. There was absolutely no way to mistake me for one of the workers. So there I was, filling my prescription, when a man's voice piped up from behind me. He says to me, "Hair dyes." Now, I thought that was odd, but I didn't turn around. Surely he wasn't talking to me, right? I then hear it again. "Hair dyes." I ignore it, and then he says, "Hair dyes," one last time. This scream is accompanied by a slap to the middle of my back. I turn around and realize that a middle-aged guy who's stocky and balding is just standing inches behind me. He seemed angry with his nostrils flaring. And it's not easy to rile me up, but woe to you if you do. I'm pissed about the slap, but whatever, I've had worse. So I tell the guy, "I don't work here." To which he responds with, "Yes you do, don't lie." I tell him, "No, I work at the deli further down." And I turn around, thinking that was that. And this is when I hear, "You do." This screech is followed by a slap to my shoulder blades, and the nightmarish me is rising to the surface. I tell him, "Slap me again and I'll call security." By now, the pharmacy staff have come to see what's going on, but the bastards did not do anything to stop this man. Once again, I turn around, and then a massive pulling motion on the ribbon of my apron pretty much pulls me backwards and down. The ribbon pulls on the fabric of the apron, which pulls up and around my throat, choking me. The strength of the pulling pretty much forces me into a limbo position, tightening the apron until I couldn't breathe. And all I could remember is, he was strong. I'm grabbing at the fabric around my throat to loosen it to breathe, but he's holding on tight. His grip then loosens, and I'm able to recover and breathe. The pharmacy guys finally got their asses in motion and called security. Our security guy's huge, and he had picked up the man and is holding him back. A kind lady from staff takes me to a chair so I can catch my breath. At this point, the man's struggling and screaming, trying to break the hold that my bulky savior has him in. The police are called, and the guy was pulling away the whole time. I don't know what happened to him, but all I know is he got a permanent ban from the mall. I was never called up for a trial or anything, so I have no idea where he is and what police did to him. It did take a while to stop being nervous about wearing the apron, but people in the mall were very kind. 95% of the people here are regular, sane humans. And that's not my first I don't work here experience, but definitely was the worst. Okay, that frickin' psycho needs to be locked up, like yesterday. Like smacking somebody twice for disobeying him and then resorting to choking them out. Like, I think at that point, screw calling security, like there's no time. Like at that point, I think somebody needed to take off their shoe or something and get in there and give that dude a good dose of F around and find out. Like reading these stories, you guys often think, where the heck are the good people, right? Like I need to start reading stories where good Samaritans start stepping in and destroying Karens on the spot. That would be wicked. So I went to urgent care this morning and I found out that I had a UTI. Because of my allergies and my pregnancy, they had a hard time finding an antibiotic that was safe for me to take. The joys of being me. They finally found one that won't cause a reaction or hurt baby. So so they sent a prescription to my pharmacy and I went to pick it up. The pharmacy had been short-staffed this day, and as such, there was only one lady trying to take calls and run orders and work the drive-thru thing by herself. She's communicating to everyone, on the phone, in person, and in drive-thru, that she's short-staffed and she'll be with them as soon as she can. Everyone understands, except the lady in the drive-thru. And yes, it's a bit of a wait, but literally one person trying to do everything. The lady in drive-thru starts laying on her horn continuously, screaming at the pharmacist, just trying to do her job. Now, from where the lady's positioned in her car, I can see that she wouldn't be able to see where the plastic partition ended and the waiting area began. I mean, it's see-through plastic, so she legit might not have seen it. And she was still looking at the register side of the pharmacy. And for some reason, that's when she decided that I was another pharmacist. And just to be clear, the pharmacists all wear white lab coats and professional attire underneath. I was wearing a red Mickey Mouse t-shirt and I had my hair up in the messiest of messy buns. So the lady starts screaming through the drive-thru glass and pointing at me to get her medication. Again, because of the setup, I understand that maybe she couldn't see the counter, but one look at me could have told her that I was no pharmacist. The poor girl behind the counter kept trying to tell Karen that I didn't work there, but it just fell on deaf ears. I could tell the actual pharmacist was close to losing it too. So I told her it's okay, I can wait if she wants to get the lady out of drive-thru first. And here's the kicker. After looking up the lady's account, her prescription was actually at a different location. She offered to have the prescription transferred over instead of having the lady drive to the other location. But at this point, Mrs. Crazy Karen decides the better option was to threaten to sue the pharmacy, throw a water bottle at the window, and flip the nice pharmacist off. But not yet satisfied with her a-hole act, she kept pointing at me and screaming at the top of her lungs and threatening to get me fired, before driving off, wheels screeching. The pharmacist kept apologizing, but I brushed it off and I told her not to worry about it. No harm done. I got my meds, went home, and started my antibiotics. That was my morning. Oh, joy. The day this happened, I was at the local friendly neighborhood Wally World with my service dog, sister, nephews, and cousin. We were doing a bit of shopping. My service dog was getting restless and needed to go potty. So I told my sister and cousin that I was going to take my service dog to go potty, and then get him some water and a nibble. I told her we would be up front when we were done, and then left to go take care of business. We were outside for a good 30 minutes, and then we went back inside after I cleaned up. As soon as we walk back inside, a woman approaches me and she said the most ridiculous thing to me. She said, "Well, it's about time you came back to work. Don't you know that mutts are not allowed in the store? Now tie that mutt up outside and get behind the register and ring me up. I have a child home and I need to get back to him." And yes, the woman called my service dog a mutt. First of all, he's a full-breed German Shepherd and clearly wearing his service dog vest. Second, I don't like to be spoken to like that by anyone. So I looked at Karen and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't actually work here. I'm a customer just like you are, and She then cuts me off and says, "Do you know who I am? I could have your job just like that." The woman then snaps her fingers at me, and I tell her, "Ma'am, 3 things. First, I'm not lying to you. Second, no, I don't know who you are and I don't care. And third, you can have it. Now back the F off and leave me alone. I don't work here. Go bother someone else." And I want to note, I was taught that you show respect for everyone who's older than you. But this old woman had picked the wrong time and the wrong person to mess with. So back to the story. As soon as I start to swear, the assistant manager comes up and asked what the problem was. Karen screams, "Your employee is swearing at me and threatened to hurt me. Not to mention, this idiot has an attack dog that's about to bite me. Now you need to do something or I'll sue." The manager says, "Ma'am, I apologize for the trouble you've experienced. I'll take care of this immediately." He then turns to me and says, "Sir, is that true what she said?" I tell him the only thing that's true about what she said is that I swore. But if you watched your CCTV, you would know why. I don't, nor have I ever worked here. Hearing me say that, Karen says, "See, he's lying again. I saw him a while ago helping some other women." The manager tells her I'm not an employee, and I don't know what happened after that because my sister and cousin came through checkout, and the manager just told me to leave. He'll handle it. My sister asked me what was wrong, and I told her, and she just laughed and reminded me that sometimes I do look like I work at Wally World. Oh, the joys of dealing with Karens at the Wally World. You know what? How in the world she thought OP was a cashier is beyond me. But like OP said, the joys of being at Wally World, right? Where some of the people there can be a little bit over the top. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed last episode on the channel, it's in our /malicious compliance episode, where bad bosses are getting absolutely destroyed. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.